back to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Skylar Hoke here, joined with Tom Jacobs. Tom, one thing to do in this situation, and it is some fist pumps up in the club. Guido Migliozzi back in the winner's circle. So good to see our guy get it over the line. Looked a little bleak on the back nine for a couple of moments, but I never lost the faith because Guido Sundays are one to always remember. We've had some painful ones even 2 starts ago.
Yeah.
It's good to see him get that victory. Short number, 33s. You know, we bagged Guido at some big ones in his day, but he's ripe in form. Likely the gold medalist here, just a month away from that too. So, summer Guido, Tom.
Yeah, my turn to congratulate you, Sky. And it's a double celebration, right? Because you've won a bet and it's also on your man. So all good there. And that takes us up to 5 outrights now on the DP World Tour this season. 33-1, the shortest, Sky. Which is wild. Like I'd like to have 5 winners and all of them to be 33-1 and up. Hoshino was 45 for me in Qatar. And then it's been, just hitters, 90-1 Vandril, 70-1 Svensson, 100-1 Elvira. So, I think we're sort of a 1 in 3 clip rate now, which is, I think that's what we were before, and we're sort of keeping it up, so that's good. Let's try not to go too much longer without a winner again. Try and cut it down to 1 and 2. But this tournament, Sky, I feel like when you get excited about the Italian Open for obvious reasons, it must rip your heart out when we go away from anywhere that we know.
It's tough. Marco Simone leading up into the Ryder Cup had that extra, added hype to it overall. And to now go way off into Italy, go off into a spot where research is incredibly difficult to find. The fields now have taken quite a bit of hit compared to what we saw of guys wanting to kind of either bolster their resume or get comfortable in advance. So it's definitely a different Italian Open, I would say, this year. But I think there's just something with a home open that gets me a little bit excited. Makes me look for the Italian guys in the field. There are some phenomenal names, as always, in this event. But yeah, I mean, overall, like what you said, this year has been remarkable for us. It's a run that it's going to be hard to keep up and ever replicate again, but it has been an absolute riot being able to get guys over the line overall. Scheduling, I'm going to hit this off of the top here because there is going to be some schedule changes. I guess not changes. It's a little bit of summer here. We're going to have some vacation time, or as you guys might call it in Europe, I've learned holidays. So I've got a holiday coming up here in the States, a pretty substantial one for me. So I am going to be off for the month of July program wise. And that's some big time events that do happen. And Tom's going to work to get a couple of guests on while also taking a little bit of a breather himself, a much deserved break. So there's not an expectation to have any show. I wouldn't expect any show next week for the BMW International. And then we have the Scottish Open and Olympics coming up. Just pay attention to us on Twitter, at SkyhookDFS, at TomJacobs93. If there is some content, we'll be right here with the videos. Tom also is writing above and beyond, kind of all over some places, but mainly with Odds Checker, previewing some things. You can find them Lost for Words podcast on my end. I'll still have some DFS content for the PGA Tour events, but these are going to be combined events, so DP World Tour guys will be getting written up on Establish the Run, but just a little bit of a breather for us where we'll be back in full continuation, likely for the British Masters, and then beyond that into some of the Irish Wentworth type of events. Is that right, Tom?
That's right, yeah. And look, it might just be a way of gaming the system, right? To keep our run rate up, we could just knock out some events. But no, it's look, anyone that's been following the show for a decent period of time knows how often we do these shows, right? And as long as there's an event, we generally try to do them every single week. And people want to take a break, and Sky's got a great break lined up with the family there, and looking forward to that for him. And it's great. I'm looking forward to potentially having some of the guests on that we've had in the past. People that watch the show know who they are and who to expect. So looking forward to that as well. I think that's it. I think we'll go into the golf course Sky, what we know of it, which is not much. I'll be completely honest. I know that we normally throw it to me to try and make some course comps and try and talk up the golf course a little bit. But yes, I'll be completely honest. If I said that I knew anything about the golf course, I'd be lying. I think anyone that sort of says they do, rather than speaking to the golf course intendant themselves, probably doesn't know an awful lot about it. There's not a lot of information out there. The guy that designed it is a former Italian golfer from a million years ago, and not very famous architect he's done it with either. So I looked for any courses they played. They haven't. It is meant to be a little bit linksy in places, Sky. There is, there's basically tree lined on one half and linksy on the other half. That much I can tell. It is relatively close to the sea. You're not going to see sea on the holes, but it is there. Whole course laid with Bermuda, ryegrass on the greens, which is a bit of a strange one. But we don't see a lot of Bermuda grass on the DP World Tour. When I looked, like you've got the Dubai events, there's Bermuda grass over there. And then when you look at kind of shorter Bermuda courses, it's the Dubai Invitational earlier this year. And then you've got like the Tenerife and Gran Canaria Open when they're back-to-back at that golf course back in 2021. That's about it. Whether there's any sort of correlation to those, I don't know, because they're not Bermuda greens, I don't think. I didn't get too in the weeds about that in the end. But yeah, composite golf course. So we're going to get there's 3 sets of 9 holes there. Going to get a bit of a mix. I think it's going to be, Sky, relatively easy. Looking at the distance, and I wouldn't be at all surprised. I mean, we had in 2020 we went to Chervo when Ross McGowan beat Laurie Cantor and Nicholas Colsaerts, and it feels a little bit like we'll get something like that, Sky, where it's 20 under par, maybe not quite as deep as that, but also just that caliber of player, like a Ross McGowan can beat an up and coming Laurie Cantor and a veteran Nicholas Colsaerts. So wouldn't surprise me if that's kind of how it plays out if you look at that leaderboard.
Yeah, I pretty much took it on the surface level. It is a shorter course, less than 7,000 yards, par 70, 2 par 5s. Could get a little windy over there with the sea nearby. Like you said, it's not like a factor right into the course, but yeah, the composite connection, I guess 3 9s, red, blue, yellow. One of them being more Scottishy overall. Again, we gave a plug last week to Mike Miller's new site, Smart Golf Info. Can look into there as he does his course research for just about every course that gets played on a professional tour. So he had some inputs there. But again, no OWGR events ever played at this course. So flying blind, which I think in times can be an advantage of just, we're not going to get into the weeds. We're playing guys in good form or recent pops or a combination of that with some good odds. And we aligned on a few of those guys. If you looked at the top of the market, we now have Patrick Reed coming over from Live as the favorite, Burned, who again played well, 18-1. McKibben under their 20s played pretty good last week. And then Guido now at 22. I'd be lying if I say I didn't consider Guido, just out of respect. Just a pure respect. I think 33s last week was probably as borderline as it gets when you're betting Guido, but he's in great form. Have it now. Tom, I'll be anxious. Open pricing DFS for Guido. He has found some of this form that led him to, he's had a couple really good major championships, right? So top 20s, a 4th place finish at a US Open. So I will be all eyes and ears for Guido at the Open. But I'm okay passing here and starting our card in the 30s.
Yeah, interestingly, with Guido, you'd expect him to have played well in an Open Championship, and he hasn't yet, has he? Right, like 64th last year was his best. But yeah, definitely keep an eye on him. I think he's playing incredibly well. A word on kind of those couple of players from the top right. So last week, Bernd Wiesberg was on my card alongside Matt Wallace. I don't know what's going on with Matt Wallace in that situation. Like, I felt so calm about him being within 3 shots of the lead. Thought we were in a great position and just didn't do it. And it was Wiesberg that actually played better on the Sunday. I mean, fortunately, obviously Guido come through for you, but from a personal perspective, like I just sat there wondering what was going on. And then you had the double disappointment of Tom Kim later on in the evening over at the Travellers, and it was kind of a bit of a tough Sunday in betting terms. But I wanted to go back to Wiesberger. You talked about going back to Migliozzi. I wanted to go back to Wiesberger, but I just don't think he's returning any. I mean, there was slight each way places for me yesterday, but like, it's just not enough. And like at 18-1 now, I think the value is going a little bit. Tom McKibben is pretty much immovable from that part of the odds board now, right? Like that is his spot for the foreseeable future. And Patrick Reed probably rightly deserves to be at the top based on sort of talent level and experience alone. So nothing too surprising at the top. I was interested a little bit in Cantor as well, like just talking about that 2020 where he should have won that over Ross McGowan, and obviously has been pretty solid since he won. But yeah, we started at the next wave of players.
Yep, 100%. And where we align is on Matthew Jordan, a shorter price, 33s, but it is available with 6th place each ways. And again, this is a simple concept overall for me. I mean, Jordan has now played his last 3 events, 12th, 13th, 5th. That 12th is probably actually, when you look at just the men's side, more like a T6. That was in the Scandinavian mix. Great irons, has been playing exceptional off the tee in lead up as well. 3 other top 20s in his recent 5 starts before that. It's just a lot of alignment there for somebody in really good form. Somebody I expected should. I mean, maybe it's just due to his lack of, getting over the line. Hasn't had a win since 2019, right on the Challenge Tour. It was in Italy, his victory there. So just good to have that kind of connection vibe, but he just seems mispriced to me.
Yeah, look, I think the one thing you've mentioned there, look, 5th, 13th, and 12th coming into the event. The 12th, like you say, really 6th if you just think about him competing against his own field. The 2019 Italian Challenge win is encouraging, as are the 30th and 15th place finishes in the Italian Open as well. In his first 2 starts, they did miss a cut last year, but not too worried. But I think also what I really like about it, Sky, is where he's performed so well this season and generally throughout his career. Shorter golf courses, 5th at the Sadao, 12th at the Scandi Mix, 4th at Kenya earlier in the year. When that links factor does come in on those 9 holes, he's been 5th at the Dunhill Links. He was 10th, obviously, at the Open Championship last year at his home course as well, right? Not to forget there was a bit of a breakthrough there as well. This is a player that there is so much more expected from, and I think potentially overhyped in the first place, but also definitely worthy of a win or 2 on the DP World Tour in the coming years, I think. And I do think this is a really good chance for him to do so. I think it's he's not coming to a British Masters or a Wentworth, where potentially if he's in good form, people want to see the English player win, right? Like it's it's an Italian Open, and the pressure will be on the home contingents, the Guidos, the Maniceros, the people at the top of the odds board, right? And he's in that little bracket below where yes, he's in good form, but no one's sort of running to the gate to anoint him the next winner.
Yep, I absolutely agree. In the next in the mid range, so you mentioned Manasaro played it awesome last week. Does have kind of that shorter course excellence overall. I was just in similar fashion of just looking at form and looking at price more than anything. Callum Hill just kind of fit that bill, right? Now Hill had been out for a pretty substantial amount of time. I believe it was like Lyme disease.
Yeah.
Was that what it was, right?
Did you say this again?
Lyme disease, or it was some type of, that's what Jimmy Walker had. I know he had some type of weird,
that would make sense.
Sickness.
Yeah, it was an illness, yeah, like and he wasn't completely hurt. And like we've said in the past, right, like when it's something like that where you are just waiting for them to recover, it's great to then see them get straight back onto form. I'm not 100% sure what it was now. Let me look it up while we're talking here. But yeah, he was out for a substantial. It was almost a whole year, right?
Yeah, I mean he played. See, 2022 he played 3 events.
Yeah.
And then 2023 he popped a little bit. He played a lot, but didn't get back into form. He has now made 7 cuts in a row, 3 of them being top 20s. What was tied for first in the Scandinavian mix on the men's side. Been putting it awesome. Irons are clicking a little bit more. I just don't understand, if we're getting Callum Hill of old, why he's 50-1 in this field. That's my biggest gripe.
Yeah, it was an insect bite, Sky, and then he had nerve hypersensitivity after that. Yes. So he'd been through the ringer, right? And you talk about sort of, we always talk about trending form here, and this is where I think overall, like you said, it can be an advantage when you're not getting too in the weeds about course designers and golf courses, right? Because there is not a more pleasing on the eye form line than Callum Hill right now. He's gone 56th, 35th, 18th, 13th, and 2nd. That's encouraging, and by any means. And yeah, like at 50 to 1, and this is a player that has won, right? Like we're talking about how good Matthew Jordan is in form, and I'm fine with the 33 to 1 on his behalf, but 50 to 1 for a player that is playing, really well as well, and has got that win under his belt in 2021. Feel really good. And actually, like the iron play has improved Sky, but not to a point where it's not. He can't better it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's room for improvement still in the iron play and off the tee, definitely. So scope for improvement there to actually go on and do more. And I think this is a chance where Hill could, really find himself in contention throughout the whole week.
Yeah, that was a standout to
Yeah.
me as we looked through it. Intrigued at Ewan Ferguson, who seemingly is coming back a little bit as well after a recent withdrawal. Had I think the next course that I feel confident is going to be a little bit of a separator or difficult or need the irons as much. I'm going to be intrigued at Ewan Ferguson. But you're on another golfer kind of in this range too, who has good form lines.
Yeah, so for me, like Julian Guerrier he's 70 to 1, right? And he's just playing a little bit better, I think, than being credited for. He's 4th and 20th in his past 2 starts. He was 6th and 7th in strokes gained tee to green in those starts, 12th and 17th in strokes gained approach. I talked about that kind of shorter golf course narrative and the Bermuda thing, and he's been 15th in the Dubai Invitational earlier. That was a Bermuda course, much shorter than anything he's been playing in recent years or recent weeks. Sorry, he was 3rd in this event last year. One of his best finishes on the DP World Tour in terms of OWTR rankings, and he was also 6th and 8th in the Rocco Forte Sicilian Open. So he's played really good golf in and around Italy, right? So the way he's playing the last couple of starts, the way he's played in Italy, the way he's played on shorter golf courses, I sort of think of Guerrier as this kind of good off the tee talent, but the approach play is certainly coming together for him, and I think these shorter golf courses are his bread and butter. So looking forward to him putting himself in the mix here at 70 to 1.
Yeah, yep. I was close just from that same concept, and ultimately I landed with another golfer who we've chatted all year long. I've been hard on a little bit sometimes in the lack of true contention. Maybe you've stuck with it, and it's Sam Bairstow. I believe we chatted with him or chatted about him last week. He withdrew from the event. I'm assuming travel. He was just playing in the U.S. Open, and why we talked about him was the way he performed at Pinehurst. Right, he opened with an 84 and then shot a 67 on day 2. 17 stroke difference for him. And again, it just shows the year that he has had. I mean, you look at it, right? He has had 2 top 10s, 6 top 25s in addition to that, just 4 missed cuts. He open qualified into the US Open. I just thought it showed a lot, man. Him coming back and having that round 2 where he was nowhere near the cut line. Didn't probably physically impossible to be able to make it and to still play that type of round. Showed me, kind of what he's made of potentially, and gave me a lot of respect for his game. And now we're getting him in a little bit. I don't know. I don't want to say this is weaker field because you take out Erasmus, you take out a Wallace, and you plug in Reed. I don't know. This feels a little bit lighter than last week in strength. His price has gone out a little bit for probably just because lack of seeing him. So it's 60s, or I guess he's 55 at this moment. You have to bet that top 5 separately, but Bairstow would be my favorite in the mid range.
Yeah, he's being given that that kind of bump, I think, because of the withdrawal last week, right? You've mentioned it. He pulled out. I have probably just got a little bit of Sam Bairstow fatigue. I think that's probably just all I've got. I don't really have any negatives towards him. I was, like you, really impressed with the bounce back in round 2 at the US Open for Sam Bairstow. So, yeah, completely see where you're going with that one. And I think in that kind of group of Callum Hill, Julian Guerrier, Sam Bairstow, we've got a group of really good mid-range options to couple with Matthew Jordan, who we really like near the top.
Yep. 100%. I didn't really even give too many double takes. I know Hoshino, I've seen him tipped a little bit. Ken Holt played well last week. Pavan, home open, playing well. Anybody else on this deeper range for you?
I will say I thought Hoshino was a little bit overpriced, which I can see why people are picking him. But just on the basis of the fact, the fact we picked him earlier in the year, that was probably the first glance at him. I'm intrigued to see how Danny Willett gets on this week. I don't think he's ready to go 20 under or whatever it is. I think you might need to get to this week. I think there's still some work to be done in that respect. I think Yannick Paul's being given up on now at 45-1. But yeah, other than that, I think I was pretty happy to move on to the ranges that we're in.
Yep, 100%. So I will give us a shout out to the audio listeners. You can find us at Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix. We appreciate all the love. It was great to see Twitter light up with the Guido W yesterday. If you could like, review, subscribe, comment, means a ton for us at Mayo Media Network to get the support, especially we hit, some big events this fall, September coming up for us if we recharge a little bit over the next month. So appreciate, again, any love that you can give us, as it's been an awesome year on our show here. Triple digits, Tom. We've got a bunch. I've got 4. You've got 2, right?
2, yeah.
So well, I guess your odds, you're first up then for the first one.
Yeah. This won't surprise anyone. The next 2 picks won't surprise anyone that's been following this for the last few years, right? Sean Crocker is 100-1. Whenever I see Sean Crocker get into contention, I immediately look at betting him the following week. I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know, because he's just very volatile. But I did go back and just kind of look and see if I should have that feeling. And when you look back in 2019, he was 12th, 2nd, and 10th in 3 straight events. In 2020, he posted 3 straight top 22 finishes on 2 separate occasions. 2021, he went 2nd, 4th, 18th, and 9th in a 4-week span. So he can do it, right? He can piece these kind of events together. If there is anything in this kind of shorter Bermuda type golf courses over the years, he was 6th at the Dubai Invitational earlier this year, 18th at the Tenerife Open, where he was 7th after rounds 2 and 3. Hit the ball nicely last week. We are aware there's a slight discrepancy at the moment. There's only 3 rounds of strokes gained data on the DP World Tour as it stands, but he was still fine. And yeah, he was in the mix, wasn't he, last week? And this has been the problem for Sean Crocker over the years, despite the fact that he has got the win to lean on. But he was 6th after round 1, 2nd after round 2, and 5th going into the final round, and somehow finished 23rd, which is pretty disappointing. And it was similar at the European Open Sky, where he was 4th after round 1, 10th after round 2, and finished 34th. But I want to focus on the positives. I do think there's a player in there. I do think, someone that's finished 18th at the Italian Open in his debut 3 years ago should be given, a second look, especially. And yeah, I just think there's a better player than we, not that we think, because we're very high on him, but I think overall the market rates him as, I think he's better than 100-1 when he's showing the form and getting in the mix like he has.
That's the one that killed me, was leaving Crocker off this week.
Yeah.
I think I've been burned, I think, a little too many times of just thinking he's back, and it's just so volatile.
And also, I don't know, and I would never question someone's will or professionalism. I've had a couple of exchanges with his dad. He's very focused on his game. He just seems happy when he plays well, and kind of doesn't get too in the depths of doom if he doesn't play well. And I think that's a great asset to have, but maybe isn't is the reason that he can be a bit up and down. He sort of takes the highs when they come and doesn't get too low about anything, and that's probably what makes him brilliant, and probably what is what lacks the killer edge of him at the moment. That can still come. I think that comes if you get yourself into contention a couple of weeks in a row. That's what I'm hoping is going to happen this week, is that he gets himself in the mix and he finds himself really not wanting to waste the opportunity he's got in front of him, right? It's not one of those ball striking weeks where you think you have to just jump on. I think it was solid, but there's still, again, like Callum Hill, room for improvement. I just thought 100-1, playing nicely, a couple of times now in the last 3 events where he's got himself in the mix. It's unquestionable, Sky, for us to say that he isn't closing 4 rounds, really ever, apart from the win, right? I think he played pretty well at the Czech Masters when he was runner up there, but he does need to find that extra gear. He actually played well in that Dubai Invitational. He was sixth earlier this year, where he put the 4 rounds together, but just doesn't quite seem to get a full week together. And we're running into, I mean, he was probably one of our first players that we kind of got, quite hooked on, right? And that's been what, 3 or 4 years now that we've been doing this. So we're almost running out of time, running out of rope of giving this kind of, he's still a little bit new to this kind of arena. He's not anymore. But I still think he makes kind of like limited starts. And I think that once he can get a full, season under his belt, full fitness, in form, I do think there's a better player there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the ceiling is sky high for him, and I think he could be a really good PGA Tour player. Truthfully, I think he really, really could.
And I think that's one of the things that hurts him, Sky. Sorry to cut you off. I think he knows that, and I think he kind of wants to get there and just stay there, and for good reason, right? Like that's where Americans want to get back to. It's I think he's humble enough to play over here, but doesn't want to stay over here, and rather than just really getting right down to business and getting it done, he's kind of just like, well, I want to make it happen with relatively minimal effort. And yeah, like I think his game will just suit those kind of like I would be really happy to play Rocket Mortgage Classic this week. Like he's that type of player, right? So yeah, I think once he gets out there, he'll do well. He's just got to get there, and it's got to be consecutive weeks.
Yep. 100%. Another golfer who had a really good week, I was very intrigued at last week. Bet him going right back to the well with Angel Ayora, who finished, I believe, tied for 21st. So one discrepancy to notice last week. As of now, the DP World Tour had not loaded in round 4 strokes gained data. Bet365 has that available in their shot tracker. If you go over to the stats tab, it's different than the DP World Tour. Even on a weekly basis, it might be the most accurate. I don't know. Like, we don't really know. But it seems like laser data last week, you get, and I'm pretty confident it's the laser when you get the approximate, it's a good sign. Like it's an approximate green, this, that, and lets it pull. I think that is encouraging for the DP World Tour to get more and more shot tracker. Little weird, we don't have those numbers yet, but Ayora popped multiple times with the approach last week, and he just seems like a player. I mean, he is 19 years old, hasn't even turned 20 years old yet, racked up multiple top 10s, top 12s. I think it's now 6 top 15s on the Challenge Tour so far this year, 2 other top 21 finishes on the DP World Tour so far this year, a made cut at the Puerto Rico Open, all at the age of 19. Pretty spectacular. So I'm going to keep betting into somebody with unknown upside here for him as at this age and this talent and playing so well. I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, and just a very sort of, I guess, I don't know, there's just a gut feeling more than anything else. Sort of Spaniards and Italians and the kind of this part of the Europe tend to just go and play well in each other's events, right? Like I think, Guerrier would go and play well in Spain, and the Spanish player would go and play well in France and Italy. Being in this kind of, I guess, continental Europe area suits these types of players, and especially a 19-year-old that probably doesn't want to travel too far away from home, right? And as you say, like the upside just seems to be there. I wish we had a bit more data on him, a little bit. Again, he's 19 years of age. All you got to look at is the fact that he's piecing together those top 15 finishes at a high clip, right? And yeah, special. I think Challenge Tour form is slightly underrated still, because people don't really know how to quantify it. And I think people are aware that there's so many cases for like the leaders of the Road to Mallorca, whatever it is they call it, that don't really then go off and make a step up on the DP World Tour, that people don't look at it so much. And I think there's such a different, there's like a Bairstow and there's a Ayora, right, that are young and up and coming, haven't played an awful lot of events, that make a big splash straight on. Jesper Svensson, not young, but fairly untested. And then you've got these kind of like 37-year-old DP World Tour veterans that are kind of bouncing back to the tour. So it skews it a little bit in terms of how people rate that form, I think. And yeah, all he can do is keep showing up in these kind of opportunities that he gets. And 23rd Australian Open, 33rd in Mauritius, 21st at the KLM. They're not groundbreaking finishes, but they're certainly strong. And if they were done by a 35-year-old that we all know a lot about, I think people would be quite keen on them. So Ayora's name has been thrown about. It's not like he's not been overlooked, but yeah, I like him.
Yeah, I'm excited about him a ton. All right, I believe yours, if you go on opposite spectrums from 19 years old to your next golfer, who we chatted about a lot too, but you're sticking the faith with your boy.
Yeah, Ross Fisher. I think I've said this before on the podcast, but first ever player that I saw win a golf event live over here in England. But yeah, 2nd and 7th in this event in the past. He's had 3 straight top 25 finishes now. He was 2nd after 54 holes at the Stow Open. He finished 13th. He improved all week long at the European Open. And then he was 23rd last week, despite being 2nd at halfway as well at the KLM Open. So yes, the problem is he hasn't converted the 2nd at the Stow. He had, after 54 holes, the 2nd at halfway last week. But he is that type of player, Skylar. I think once he sees that, he knows, like, whereas a younger player wouldn't know necessarily how to react to not closing out, Ross Fisher knows how he needs to get through 4 rounds. He's a very solid player. He knows how to close out events, right? And he's been, 16th, 10th, and 4th in approach the last 3, 14th, 9th, and inside the top 15 or so in tee to green, depending on what the data says in round 4. Just ball striking it really well. And yeah, I just think slightly overlooked in the market 150 to 1, based on the fact he's not a flashy name. He's not a player that people are rushing to the window to bet Ross Fisher these days. I don't think they ever were, really, but this is a player that we know has got huge upside, is contending WGCs and things like that as well, and won multiple times on the DP World Tour. And yeah, runner-up finished in this event in the past with a closing 63. Fisher knows how to play well in this. That was behind Tyrrell Hatton in 2017, who would have been on the rise, right? So yeah, really like what Fisher's done. He's a 5-time winner. He hasn't won since 2014. It would be, I guess, a little bit similar to a Marcel Thiem or someone like that, Sky, that we saw have a big comeback last year. But the types of, just the names of the players that he beat: Joost Luiten, Sergio Garcia, Anthony Kim in the match play, Padraig Harrington, and his most recent, Michael Hoey and Daniel Van Tonder, is slightly less impressive than those, but still great. And he's lost out in playoffs to Phil Nicholson and things like that, Martin Keimer. So yeah, I'm going to go with Ross Fisher and hope that the veteran can kind of roll back the years. We, as I said, referenced earlier, the 2020 renewal, Sky, where Ross McGowan won, just kind of gives me hope, like he can hold off someone like that in an event in a field where there are question marks.
Yeah, 100%. Always gives me a little scare, but it also always feels like somebody you could make money off of when his odds get long, just from the ball striking prowess he has.
He's just due. It's like Larafabelle last week, where I was so questionable about it. Like, they do just end up letting you down. It'll be the same with Crocker. They'll finish 32nd and 47th or something. But 100 and 150 to 1, both of those players, I just can't look past them. If they were 66 to 1, it's a lot easier to do, right? But yeah, I just think when you, what is the difference between, I don't know, Dan Bradbury and Ross Fisher, right? This, apart from 60 points in the market, I know we're hoping for Dan Bradbury to come good again, or a Andy Sullivan and a Scott Jameson, probably way more like Ross Fisher in terms of stature, right, and experience. I know they're playing a little bit better long term than he is, but in recent weeks he's playing as well as most of them.
Yeah, totally. All right, I'm going to go a little rapid with mine here, as we have 3 left to rip. First off, Filippo Celli. Hard not to back an Italian in the Italian Open. Celli popped for his best finish of 2024 at the KLM Open. T10, really, really good irons, bunch of shots inside of 20 feet. Saw him pop on the scene, making the Open Championship cut in 2022 after he won the European Amateur Championship. Hasn't kicked on what we maybe thought, but 23 years old still. I think 200s with him and a top 10 is a really strong way to get into Celli. Another one, this one's frustrating to back, but frustrating to not be on in some situations where I feel like the sky is, again, the limit for James Nicholas. he pulled once again, man, a Bairstow in the sense he opened with 81 and then he shot a 66, one of the best rounds of the day on Thursday, still finishes 120th for the week. The challenge toward the event before, he went 64, 80, 67, 71. Before that, 78, 67, 73, 72. Week before that, 67, 70, 67, 72, a little bit more normal. But Nicholas is, I guess he's got from 65 to 85 in the bag. And I really think if he could string together 4 good rounds, like there's going to be a time, and there was, not even this recent stretch, where 354 holes, he's right in it and then could blow up. And one of these times it's going to flip 220 to hit with him on the odds plus, top 10. I like making that bet. And then lastly, I get a tweet every time this happens, man. Every time. There's 3 guys I like to bet: Nicholas, Sam Jones, Galletti, right? I can't bet them all every week. I can't. And I'm playing this game of musical chairs that I keep getting the chair pulled out on me every single time, Tom. I'm late every single time. Galletti, he's in the top 10 after 36 holes last week after I didn't think he would have a chance to kind of fight back like that. I think at a shorter course like this, and this is the irons discrepancy on Bet365. He wasn't as bad of an iron player there as it was in the DP World Tour. Really good on Friday. Sunday was middling. He just wasn't good over the weekend. Shot a bunch. He had won in California over the breaks. He has that talent. Made the Waste Management Phoenix Open. I think a shorter course fits him better, a tighter type of track. So Nicolo is 500 to 1 with a 6th place each way there. Top 10, top 20. You might be better doing these guys in like a first round leader market. Sam Jones was the first round leader not that long ago. But if I'm playing my game, I can't miss out some pops on those 2.
They're going to pay off eventually. And I think I said this last week when did you bet Nicholas last week?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just said the same thing. I just think he's a player that is used to mini tour events. He's used to playing all over America in different events, spot starts, Monday qualifying. He knows how to go really low in isolation. He doesn't know how to complete 4 rounds. And that, I think, is an exciting factor for him coming over here and learning that. I think he'll be better for it regardless of what happens by the end of the season, right? But it's the difference between him contending and not. And a little bit like the same with Galletti. I think Galetti's actually probably found it a bit quicker, but by the same token, just a little bit harder to predict. So that's why you've got the 500s one, and it will pay off eventually on those. And Chelly makes perfect sense. Not too much to say against Chelly, who looked really good when 10th last week. He was never outside the top 15 in those 4 rounds, and he was making cuts before that, right? Like 42nd, 50th, 48th. Like they, again, not groundbreaking, but I think you've sort of noticed this, Sky. Like a lot of DP World Tour players, if you go on sort of like 3 or 4 week runs of just making cuts, eventually you seem to explode. And I think that's what happened with Soderberg, and we know what happened when he finally had his time. But he was just, I think he made something ridiculous, like 20 odd cuts in a row, and they were fairly innocuous for most of the time. And then all of a sudden, bang, we get some big events. And that's what's happening with Bernd Wiesberger this year. He's suddenly 2nd and 7th his last 2 starts. These players are not quite the Wiesberger quality yet, but no reason they can't go on and be that.
Yeah, 100%. One last shout out for a guy for me, if I have to, just name value alone. Flavio Machete, 20 years old, off of the Alps Tour, 2nd place there last week. A couple other top 15 finishes. Name of the week, Flavio Machete.
That is good. I like the pronunciation as well. You're really nailing these. You're almost like our resident European. You're probably more European than I am in terms of culture. Like I don't step far outside of England other than to come to America, where again they speak a different type of English. So yeah, you're probably more cultured than I am. I like it. It's great. Yeah, I don't know. Like I was thinking, trying to look for like a really big long shot this week, and whether there would be one for me. I don't think there is. Like I'm pretty happy with what we've got in there. I was really annoyed. I think it was last week where we were on a Christian Crow Johansson to play. He had a lot of course designer links and he didn't play, or his week. I can't remember what week it was. He's now like 700 to 1 or something. That'd be interesting. Yeah, I can just see this type of event where it's like a Garcia Heredia is leading after round 1. It all kind of goes a little bit weird. Sebastian Garcia, etc. But Matthew Baldwin's been hitting the ball well. He's 250 to 1. I can't pin my flag on any of these. I'm quite happy with the list we've got.
Yep, 100% agree with you. All right, let's roll. We'll roll back through it and we'll put a close on it.
Yeah, so if I summarise my picks here, so Matthew Jordan, he's available at 33-1. Bet Rivers with the each way. Callum Hill 50-1. Same Bet Rivers there with the each way as well. Julian Guerrier is 70-1 win only, or you can get the 60-1 with the each way at Bet Rivers as well. I like both of those routes. You can go with either. I would take the 100-1 on Sean Crocker win only rather than anything with the each way. I think he's that volatile. It doesn't really matter. He's either going to finish first or 47th. So we'll take the big prices on that. And then Ross Fisher, he's 150-1 win only, but 90-1 the each way. And I think he is a player that could fill up the places. So I would advise sort of splitting stakes on that.
Yep, 100% okay. I'm in on with you. Matthew Jordan, 33s with the 6th place each way. Callum Hill, 50-1 with you. Sam Bairstow, 55. Angel Ayora, 150. Filippo Celli, 200. James Nicholas, 220. Nicolo Galetti, 500-1. Tom, always love chatting with you. Appreciate you. Our longest gap in a while, but a deserved holiday that we get to have. Some time off. Know you'll still be grinding, but again, thank you for all you do, listeners. We appreciate you guys, and us two will be back on a show late August is our game plan.
Yep.
Then Tom will, like I said, fill in a few cracks here and there and get some well-deserved time off too, Tom. So thank you again for everything, and best of luck to everyone over the next few months.
Yeah, enjoy your time off, Sky. It should be absolutely great. You should hopefully get, I don't know what the weather's going to be like in the different places you're traveling, but hopefully it's great. Enjoy your vacation time. I'm gonna throw back to you that you're saying. Yeah, and we will have shows here and there. So familiar faces. We know the people that have come on in the past. Looking forward to that. I think we'll probably try and do something for the Open Championship, potentially with Pat, Scottish Open as well. So looking forward to that. But yeah, looking forward to it. Sky, let's end on a winner before this little hiatus here.
Yes, 100%. And Guido for gold. That's our message. So we'll see you coming back with a gold medal for Guido. So thank you again, Tom, and we'll catch you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks, Scott.